Okay. Okay, so students, we will start with while loops today. They're another form of control flow statements. So control flow statements, my question to you is, what do you understand by control flow statements?
So it's like it checks like the validity of the statement we have made, and then based on that, it would execute a function which we have written.
Okay, validity. Okay, your code has to be valid anyway. But what
Yes,
is
but like if we make a as in like if we say something is equal to something, it'll check if that is true, and then if it is true, then it'll do something which we have like
yes,
told it to do.
yes, your understanding is absolutely clear,
Yes, sir.
absolutely correct. The control flow statements are the statements which change the normal flow of execution of the program. The normal flow of execution of the program is top to bottom, line by line. But you want your code to follow different path, just not top to bottom, then there you can use control flow statements. So last class we discussed about control flow statements, which was if statements, if, elif, and else. Now in this class we will look at loops. Okay. Now, so there are two type of loops, while loop and for loop. So in this class we will look at while loop. Now, while loop. So to create a while loop and if you will find similarities because both work on the basis of condition. So just to create a while loop, I will just simply write this keyword while, right? And then I have to provide it a condition. I have to provide it a condition. So this condition can be anything, right? So condition can be the condition can be x is greater than 10, right? So now let's check what is the value of x first. So x is 20. So we can say while x is greater than 10, till then you execute this loop. Okay. So we see that x is already greater than 20. Correct? X is already greater than 20. So is this condition true or false?
True, sir.
True. So while loop will execute the while block of code till this condition is true. Okay, so whatever we write, let's say we write print value of x, we can say something like this, right? And then we can also change the value of x, because if we don't change the value of x, this
Yes,
condition will remain true always, and we will end up with an infinite loop. This will remain true always, and this loop will keep on running ever. So this becomes an infinite loop. So what we will do is we are going to decrement this. We can decrement by 1 or 2, whatever. One point of the time, this x value will be less than 11. At that point of time, this will fail. Okay, this will become false. And once this becomes false, the execution of the while loop will conclude, and it will move to the next set of the statements if there are statements after the while loop. So let's run this, and we see we are getting all the values from 20 to 11, and at this point of time you see that no, x became 10 and this condition became false, so it basically exited out of the loop. Okay, so is this clear? Is this while loop clear?
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now let's write a times table code for times table. So we want to we will have a number. This can have any value. Let's say we will say the value is 7. Now we want to print the times table. Okay, so how can we do that using while loop?
Sir, sir, we can declare a variable like a if a is while a is less greater than a, sir, which may be 0, sir. So it will until then the loop will be executing, sir. So we can multiply num with the value, sir. Then we can do is then we can use the num minus equal to 1, sir.
Yes, yes, we can do something like that. Now, see, where would we want to use loop kind of construct? Can we give it a thought? Why would we need loops anyway? Why?
So when we want to do something again and again.
When we want to do something again and again, repetitive
So
thing.
then it can be
Yeah, go ahead.
used instead of write statement, and it will just continue execute.
Yeah, it can be used in this. If we are doing things again and again, like for example, we are checking for a condition again and again, and then we are processing it. Like for example, we are printing a book, all right? So we are printing page after page. So the process is read the content, right? And then put it in a template and fire print. Read the next page, put it in the template, fire print. This is what we are doing, right? Till all the pages are exhausted, right? So many times you have to do repetitive things, and that's where we can use a loop. Other example can be in the game. We don't know when the game over is going to happen, or when the user wants to decide to close the game, right? So we keep on checking. So when the game is going on, we keep on checking about the condition, various conditions which are in the game environment, and accordingly our characters will move. You know, our characters will take different things. So that's how we
Yes, sir.
have to use this. Now, in times table, you know one thing, right? We have to say like 7 into 1 is equal to 7, 7 into 2 is equal to 14, 7 into 3 is equal to 21. So we are saying that no, the index is increasing, the counter 1, 2, 3, this is all is increasing. So we need to have some kind of counter which we can use it to increase the value, and then we can simply multiply that, and then we get the times table. So that counter, maybe we can say I. What is the starting value of I? What should be the starting value of
10.
I? Sorry,
10 or
1.
11.
we can do 1. Okay,
1.
we want to print increment, right? We want to print in increasing order. That's how we print times table. If we want to print in descending order, in decreasing order, then we can start from top and go to the bottom. Right? So we'll say while, and while I is less than 11, or we can also say while I is less than or equal to 10. Okay. So now, since I is equal to 1, this loop will be executed, and then we will be able to proceed. So we'll say print, and then we can say simply num into I, right? And then we will have to increment this, right? So we will say I plus equals 1. We want to increase it by 1, right? Once we do it, then we get this table, right? We get this table. Now, if we want to print the in proper format way, where it says 7 into 1 is equal to 7, then we can simply format this as string, right? So we have this while loop, and then we will, this print statement is what we have to format. Now, print gives us a value, but we can use f strings. We have covered f strings, isn't it? Okay, maybe not. We have not covered f strings. So f string is very simple to understand. Now see, this is the kind of string which we want this to be printed something like this. We want to say num into I is equal to num into I. Something we want to do something like this, right? If we just simply print this normal string, it will print just like that. But we want these values to be evaluated. These values to be evaluated. So we prefix f in front of this string. We prefix f, and then we put curly brackets around the expression we want this to be evaluated. Okay, so not x, we want to put it here, and we will put it here, then we will put it here, right? So these value will be evaluated, right? So this, because this is curly brackets, Python knows this is a F strings because you have put F in front of that. So we will be able to evaluate, it will evaluate these curly brackets. Okay, it will evaluate these
Yes,
curly
sir.
brackets. And once we do that, then we have to just simply say I is plus equals 1. We will increment I. And then when we do that, so, okay, because I has already changed the value, because value of I has already become 11. You have to reset the value of I, right? So we'll say I is equal to 1 again. And then we will do something like this. And then we will do again this. Now we are getting in the proper format, the way we want, right? So we can actually look into, we can write this completely code into this session. So today is session 4th, right? Isn't it?
I think 5th, sir.
You think it's 5th session?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just check. So we have Python and -21. This is the 4th session. This is the 4th.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, so this is the 4th session. Okay, so we have created this code while loop, and we will actually write the same, copy the same code right here. Just simply copy this from right here to here. And we also have to say num is equal to whatever the value we want to set. I'll just get rid of this thing. Then get rid of this thing, right? So we get all this. So this is, so we will go to session 4, Python 3, while loop, and we are able to execute this. Now, any change you want to make, you want to make it 17, you can do this. Let's say if you want to make it user input driven for whatever things user want to put. So what change we should make? We want this to be user input driven.
So put it as num is equal to int input.
Excellent. And then
Int input, and then enter a number.
enter a number
And
for which.
but then this is the same program will continue
Excellent.
to work.
Very good.
Yes.
Times table. Okay, so we'll just message like this. So we get the input, and then when we run it, it is asking me for the input. Now I can give any number. That is the usefulness of the programming, right? I can find.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Any number. We can put any number.
Yeah, any number, and this becomes very simple for me. You write one program, and then it can be used for so many different variety of things. That is the power of coding. Great. So now we will actually, this is pretty much this thing. You guys, we will actually work on, I will show you this particular game, and then in your class, you can work on this number guessing game. Okay, number guessing game. So let me build number guessing game for you quickly. There are some learnings in this. And then the next second game you can build yourself. Okay. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, so we'll just say number guessing. And then we will say something like this. So the game works like this. We will have a secret number and user has to guess. If the user is able to crack the number, we tell him, okay, congratulations. You have cracked the number in these many attempts. User is not able to crack the number. Then we have to tell the user that no, the number is lower or higher. Okay. Or your guess is lower or higher. We give some kind of hint to the user. Okay, so since we want to generate a random number, we will import a random module, which is available to us in Python.
So then we,
yes,
sir.
Yes, and then we will say that no, a secret code is equal to random, and then how do we find? So we want random int. Okay, so we'll say random int, rand int, and we want to give it the
Range.
range. Yeah, so we can say, okay, you give me a number between 1 to 9, right? So
Yes.
it will be a secret number. And so generally you don't do this kind of hard coding. So what we can say that, no, we can say begin is equal to 1 and end is equal to 9. We can parameterize it, or we can use variables. So then this game can be played with any kind of numbers. You can give any range. We can go higher as well. Okay, so Rehan is sir, we are shifting to the weapon, so I can't join. Okay, fine. So anyway, we have the recording. So now, so we have got a secret number and we want user to give his input. So we will say guess is equal to, we'll say int and then input, right? And we will give a message, enter a number between begin and end. We want to do something like this so that user, we can play for, we are using variables, so we can just put this kind of brackets for this to be evaluated. Okay, so begin and end. So we got the user guess. Now we have to check. See, I'm telling you how to build a logic. Coding is all about how can you build a right logic. Okay, knowing about the syntax is one thing, but how you build the logic, that is the real coding. Okay, so see, the way we build the logic, we think through the program step by step. Okay, what should happen now? What should happen now? Okay, this is done. What should happen now? So far,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So far we have come up with the secret code, and then we have got the user guess. Now we have to compare, right? We have to compare that. No, if
The user input is equal to the random number.
yes, if the user input is, like, we can say equal is also fine, right? Or we can, because we want to give a hint, so we can say if the user guesses more than secret. Okay, if the user guesses more than
Yes,
the secret, then in that case we will say, we'll just print out your guess is higher, right? And then we say Aleph. We can just copy this code, complete code, and then we can print this, paste it there, and Aleph, this is lesser, so we can just tell your guess is lower. Okay, and else it is correct, right? Else it is correct. So we'll say you.
Congratulations, it is correct. Congratulations, you won.
Yes, very good.
Yes.
Congratulations. Congratulations, you got it. Okay, and then we can say you took you can say number of attempts is equal to, and then we can mention attempts. Okay, so this is variable we will define. So now attempts, we can, so as soon as you have got the guess, actually this has become attempt number 1, isn't it? Right, this will become attempt number 1, correct? So this code is fine, but then
Yes.
yeah, we want the user to attempt again. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to do something like this. So at the beginning of the code, this attempt is 0, and then we increment the attempt by 1. Okay, so we want the user to keep on guessing. So for that, we can use while, because we want the user to keep on guessing till it completes. And we can use actually while true. And while true makes our life very easy. I'll tell you how. So we say while true, and while true means this becomes an infinite loop. And all this code will become part of the while true block, right? And then once we get this correct, we simply break out of the loop, right? And we are done. Our code is done. Isn't it? Isn't it straightforward?
Yes, sir.
Now we'll test it. So far we have written it, but we have not tested it. So we can never be sure whether our program is working fine or not. But to me, I think we have got it. It should be all good. What do you think? What do you think?
Yes, sir. It should work.
Yes. So let's okay, enter a number between 1 and 9. So we can actually put some spacing. The formatting issue is there. So let's say I give a number as 5. What is that? I give a number as 5. Then your guess is higher. So my guess is higher, which means the number must be lesser. So let me give a guess of 3. Okay, so we have got it. Okay, so we have got that. Okay, so we have got that the number was actually 3 only, right? So we got it in 2 attempts. Okay, so we have improved the format. Now the
Yes,
best
sir.
part was, since we have used variables, we can just simply change this and my game changes. Like game changes, it becomes a little bit more challenging. Now I want you guys to make a guess, and who wants to play? Who wants to take an attempt? So who wants to
Yes,
play?
sir.
Okay, you. Yeah, tell me what should be the number you should try.
54.
54. Okay, your guess is lower, so you have to go higher.
65.
65. Okay, your guess is still lower.
78.
Still lower.
90.
This is higher.
85.
This is lower.
87.
Hey, you got it. You got it in 6 attempts. Well done. Not bad.
Yes.
Okay, Sohan, you want to try?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
So 50,
50,
60,
60,
80,
80,
90,
still lower.
98,
This is higher.
93, 95, 96,
Still lower.
97,
This will be it, because 98 we have already checked, right? So okay, superb. So you took 9 attempts. You took 9 attempts. Okay, you took 6 attempts. I will also give it a shot to see if I am able to do any better. So my guess is higher. Okay, my guess is still higher. My guess is now lower. So let me try with. My guess is higher. So still higher. So it is between 12 and 15. So hey, I got it in 6 attempts. Okay, exactly like you. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So see, initially we were doing from 1 to 9, then we reached to 1 to 99. Even if I go to 9, I'm saying almost like 10,000, still you will be able to get this in about 10-15 attempts. The trick is you try to reduce half of it. So that's what I tried to do. I tried 50. So now I know that, okay, 1/2 is gone because I know it's higher, right? Then I tried 25. So I'm just trying to hit the middle of it, right? So if you're able to eliminate half of them, then you will be able to do it much faster. Okay. So even if this number is 999, you'll be able to do it much faster. Right? Clear?
yes, sir.
So this kind of thing,
Yes.
actually, in programming, we call it as binary search. Okay, binary search, in which after every search, you remove half of it. You remove half of it. Okay, so this is what is called search algorithm. So even if you have millions of records to search, if you are using binary search, you don't have to go to all the million records. You can just do even that search in maybe 20 to 25 moves. That's it. Instead of million moves, you can do only in 25 moves, which is tremendously faster, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes, sir.
So Sohan was doing more like full table scan, like he was going through all the values one by one, one by one, right? So, so yeah, so, but if you think about eliminating half-half, then you are doing something like binary search. Okay,
Yes, sir. First I did that only, sir.
first you try to do,
After that, yeah, sir.
your number was a little bit tricky. So after that, you did not try to make it in halves. Initially, you started with 50 only, but then you went with 60. Instead, you should have gone with probably 75. That would have been in the middle. And later again, it said higher, then we could have tried for 90, isn't it? You
Yes,
would
sir.
reach the number a little bit faster. Okay, so yeah, main thing I wanted to highlight is about this algorithm, which is called binary search. Binary means 2, right? Binary is 2. That means you're eliminating half of it. Okay, so we are actually kind of done with this thing. You will have to attempt these programs, and you work on this dice rolling game, right? Now see, this is one of the ways of doing it. Other way is we could have also said, if the guess is equal to secret code, then we could have just exited out of this also, right? If the guess is equal to secret code, we could have just simply exited, and we could have done this. But this is also fine. While many times you use this kind of construct where you say while true, and then you go about writing your code, and when the condition turns false, you break. So break will break the loop, and you will continue with the next set of statements. So if I had next set of statements, that would have continued. Okay, so this is my next statement. This will continue to do that. Okay, so you'll be able to do all of that. Got it? Right?
Yes.
Okay, so anytime you have any confusion, always go to this place called pythontutor.com. You go to this place. Okay, anytime you have confusion, and you can visualize your code here. You can click on this, start visualizing your code. And then I will just simply copy this code and put it here. I will just get rid of this. I will just make it a very small value, 5, so that we are able to get it faster. And then you will click on visualize execution. So it opens something like this. And then you can do next to see your code, right? So we'll say next, and you see it will show you what are the things. So begin is there. We're creating this random, we have imported random module. So begin, then end variable I'm creating, then attempts is 0. These values are here. Then secret code. So now we know the secret code, this is 4, right? So now enter a number between this thing. So it is going to show me the, it is asking me for the output, right? So I will say, okay, my number is 3. And then I click on submit. So now my 3 has gone. So guess was 3, and attempt will be increased now. So attempt has got increased, and we are then checking this condition. So you can do this all visualization by using Python Tutor and doing next. You'll be able to clearly see what are the steps this code is following. Okay, what are the steps this code is following? So my guess was lower because I had mentioned 3, but actually the secret code was 4. So that's why it has gone in this thing and just come back again there. Right, again it is asking for me for the input. Now this time let's say I am putting it correctly, and then guess is 4, and then attempts has become 2, and then no, this is not greater than, this is not less than that. That means it is equal to, and then we will get this. Congratulations, you got it. Number of attempts is equal to 2, right? And then you see that it is going to break this, because now we will be executing this break statement, because break is part of the else block. That's how the break statement will be executed. And when this break is executed, this loop will break right away, and then the control will go to the next statement. So when we do this, you see that it has broken and it has gone to the next statement. It will execute the next statement. That's how you're getting this, and this completes our program. Okay, so always remember about this tool, pythontutor.com. You can always visualize this code. Coding is about understanding each and every step. how my instructions are going, right? How my instructions are being processed. And this tool is immensely helpful in that. Okay. So will you remember this tool?
Yes, sir.
And
Python tutor.
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir. Python tutor.
then you will be using it also, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, make
Yes,
sure you're using this. Okay,
So this is more useful to find errors, no, sir?
this is more useful to find errors. This is also useful for you to understand how my code is executing. Okay, many times
Okay, sir.
there may be complicated block of code. Maybe it may be you may be using recursion. Okay, or maybe you're doing some kind of search algorithm. Then you can use this tool to visualize, or maybe for that matter, how is my while loop working? And of course, as you rightly said, Sohan, that no, it can be used for debugging purpose also, right? You can use it for to find the issues. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good. So you can work on this while loop. Now we will move on to the next loop, which is our for loop. Again, very interesting one. Okay, so we have these two different type of loops. For loop is also very straightforward. While loop, you would have seen that it's quite straightforward. You have to be just make sure that no, the condition, if the condition is true, you will be able to execute this. Now, while loop is there. The purpose of for loop is also to execute the loop, but for loop gives us additional benefit in which we execute for loop if we have counted number of loop attempts with us. Like for example, in the number game, we never knew when my loop will complete, right? When my loop will complete. Will it complete in 5 attempts, 6 attempts, 10 attempts, 20 attempts? So that's where that's the right place to use while loop. With for loop, you provide a counted number of items. You provide either the sequence or you provide it a list, right? A string. It will work for only counted number of things. Okay. So right, I think these things must be clear to you. Right. So we will take an example about for loop. Okay, just give me a sec, guys. I need to just connect my charger. Okay, so let's start writing some code for loop. So I'm going to create a file. For loop. Okay, so as I was telling you, for loop you will use when you want to repeat the action for a counted number of times. Okay, so now counted number of times you can provide it in form of list as well. So let's say I have a list and L1 and it contains some values 3, 10, 20. Now we want to iterate over this list. We want to go over each list item and do something with it. For that, we will say for, and syntax is actually very straightforward, but you have to pay attention. So we'll say for, and then we'll say x. X is a variable name. We'll say for x in L1, and then we will say print, or whatever we want to do, print, or let's say we are finding square of this. We are saying, okay, x into x, and then we are printing that, and we can use f strings. The square of x is y, and we just need to put curly brackets to make it a f string. You see, with f string, my life becomes so easy, isn't it? And f string is a new, yeah, f string is a new addition. It was added in I think 3.7 or 3.8. Okay, so now I'm able to find the square and I'm able to do this. So this is going to run only for 3 times, and I don't have to worry about incrementing anything. My syntax has become easier. Okay, so if I write Python 3 for loop, see it is executing this, it is getting me this. Now let's say I want to write the same code using while loop. How we can write the same code in while loop? We want to print the square of each number. So
While true.
While true. Okay, let's say we do while true, then what? So while true will give you infinite number of things. One way you can do while true also. and then you break when all your items are concluded. But to know whether you have gone over all the items, you will have to have a tracker for the index, right? So you will have to say, okay, I'll start with index 0, right? And then I will print, I will access these items using the index. So the way I will access it, I will access using index, and then I will assign it to x is equal to this index, right? And index we will change, and then we will calculate y is equal to x into x, and then we will have this same statement, right? And then we will have to increment the index by plus equals 1, and then we will have to see if index is greater or equal. We can just say simply equal to length of this L1. Then this is the place where we break, right? You can write code like this as well. Okay. Now if I run this, now you will see that we are getting the same thing twice. But you see, we have to do so much work in doing this, right? We have to create an index, and we have to do all that, correct? So the code, which can be written in 3 lines, we took almost like what, 9, 10 lines, correct? This can be a little bit simplified. We can also do this check here. We can say till this index is less than the length of L1, right? So which means length of L1 is 3. So till index is 2, this is all fine. I will execute it. So I don't need this. I don't have to break and all. But still, you see, we have to, apart from this line, which is applicable for both of them, for loop, we can do it in 3 statements, but here we need minimum 6 statements to do the same thing, because we have to increment the index, and we have to define an index at the beginning, correct? This will also give us the same result, but we are doing the same. We are doing a lot of work when we are using while loop. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now I will just cover one more thing. See, many times we want to print, let's say, table of a number, times table of a number. Let's print times table of a number. So we'll say num is 7. And then what we have to say, we want to increment from 1 to 10, right? And note that this is just a variable. This can be anything. I can change it to I, okay? Or I can change it to jelly. Whatever variable name I want, I can put it there. So I want to go till this 7, and this is what I want sequence of the numbers, because that is what, I want to go till 10. This is a sequence of number which I want to have it, right? So in Python, to go over the sequence of numbers, you have something called range. Okay, so there's a range object. So if I say 10, it is, and if I convert into list, it gives me 0 to 9. Okay, it gives me 0 to 9 numbers. And you have seen that now we can use actually list itself to run it. So we can actually use this range. Okay, and range, if you're just providing 10, it will start from 0 and it will go to 1 less than this number. If you want to decide on the starting point, then you have to provide 2 arguments. You can say, okay, I want to start from 5 and I want to go till 9. Then you will have to say range 5 to 10. So it will go till 9. Okay, so 5 to 9. If you want it, okay, I want increments not as 1, but I want increment as other number, maybe 2 or 3 or whatever number, then you can change the step size also. So in this case, what number do you think will be printed?
579.
Excellent, sir. Excellent. Yes. And if you want to read the documentation, you can always read help range. And then you see you are reading all this documentation. You're getting this documentation. And you see this is already, I told you that if you're providing this one value, it will act as stop. And the start will be, by default, start will be 0. And step size in this case will be 1. But if you want more control, then you can use this kind of format where you define start. You can define any number other than 0, or it can be 0 also, but if it is 0, then it's already there. Start, stop, and then step is also you can provide. Okay. So you tell me, if we are giving one argument to range, that one argument will be taken as what? One argument, if we are giving one argument to this range function, that argument will act as
Can you please repeat?
So my question is, I told you, range, we can pass multiple arguments. Either we can pass one argument. Okay, so argument is something which we pass to the function. I think we have covered this many times, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so argument is something which we pass to the function in the brackets. That is the input to the function. Okay, so we can actually use range with one argument or two argument or three argument. So if we are using range with one argument, that one argument will act as what?
Stop.
It will act as stop. Very good. If we are passing two arguments, then what will the first argument and second argument act as?
1 and 2.
So no, it will act as start and stop, right?
Okay.
If you're passing three arguments, then it's going to act as start, stop, and step. And you can see that it is mentioned here that stop is exclusive, start is inclusive. Okay. Okay. So now this is what we are doing, and we will be using range whenever we want this kind of sequences. And always don't shy about reading the documentation. This is the syntax, how to use it, and then there is some documentation available. You can read through it. It simply says return an object that produces a sequence of integers from start to stop by step. It mentions all that. So you can read the documentation to understand very well how this function works. Okay, small things we add every day, then in few years we will accumulate huge amount of knowledge. Lots and lots of knowledge. Okay, so every time you make an effort to learn something, even if it is small, but you try to learn in depth. So let's use this. And then since we want to print times table, we want range from what the range value we want. What should the range values? Because we want to print times table, so we want this number from 1 to 10, right? So what should I mention here? What value should I mention here?
1, 10.
It should be 10 or something else.
11.
11. Very good, because stop are exclusive, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and this is I'm using jelly. You can use that also. So I will just simply say this is just a placeholder. This can be X, I, it can be jelly also. It's just a placeholder, and then I'm saying num. And now if I run this, you see I'm getting this times table. I'm getting this times table. Okay, so I can just change this back to I, right? And if I again want this to be in form of F strings, so we can just enclose that in
F and then
yes. So we will say num
curly
xi is equal to
curly bracket
yes, very good.
I.
That's very good. So this is how we use F strings. Okay,
Yes.
so now we will run this, and you see we're getting in right format. Okay, so that is about for loop, how we use it. Even with for loop, you have break available, right? Break statement available even in for loop. So if I say if I can actually go till maybe 20 also, this will be all fine. I can run this. It will go till 20 also, right? So rather it will go till 90. But if I want to say, okay, no, if I is greater than 10, then you break. Then it will break. It will break this for loop, and then it will continue with the next set of statements. Okay, so print after for loop statement. Okay, now one thing to note is break you use in the context only in the context of loop. You cannot use break in any other context. You cannot use break for if statements, else statements, or for functions. You cannot use break. Break is only relevant for loops, while loop or for loop. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so now see we are breaking after the just after 10. So it is just printing me. Yeah, so see, it is printing before that, right? It is printing before that. So it has become already greater than 10. So if we put this above, then we will not get to 11. We will get only till times 10 times, right? Clear? This is how you can rearrange your code and see what's going on. So this is, we have got this, and then this is after for loop statement. It's a regular statement will execute. So that's how you have your code, right? You have for loop, then that it completes. Then you may have if statements that will complete. Then you may have while. That's how. Then you may have function call. That's how the whole program will work. Okay, step by step logic, step by step as the step by step instructions. Okay, students, got it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. So actually what we will do is we'll take a break of 5 minutes because we want to cover two important topics, which is continue and else with respect to loops. So that will require a little bit more focus. So let's take a break, come back exactly after 5 minutes. So that will be 12:02. Okay. Okay, students, so let's look into continue statement. Okay. So continue statement, whenever it is encountered inside the loop, it is going to skip to the next execution, next iteration. So whatever lines are there after the continue will not be executed. Okay. So if you look at this, what are the statements we have here, right? So what is this thing doing? We're just simply printing this. We're just printing I value, right? So this is just, we are printing I value, correct? We can actually maybe just print this. I is equal to, then we're saying I, right? Now, when I run this, you see I'm getting 1, 2, 4, and 5. So what happens is, when my I value was 1, this was false, so it did not execute continue. So it came in printed here. It executed this statement. Then it went and then it took 2. Even for 2, this was false. So it continued. Sorry, it did not go inside this, right? So it printed 2 also. When it became 3, this became true and it actually came inside this block and it executed continue. So control from here will jump directly to here. Rest of the statement, whatever statements are there in the for loop after continue will not be executed. So continue will actually come to the next iteration value, which is 4. And then it will again continue. So this is not equal to 4, then this will be printed. 5, then this is not, I is not equal to, so 5 is not equal to 3. So this if block will not be executed, this continue statement will not be executed, and this print statement will execute. So this is how continue works. Okay, this is how continue works. So is this continue clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, so continue statement, in what context you will use continue statement. Okay, so whenever you want to skip certain execution, you will use that. Okay. Otherwise, generally you will not use continue because for loop will again execute again and again by nature of for loop. Okay. Continue you use only if you have to skip certain portion of the code on certain condition. If let's say there was no condition and we have this continue statement, then what do you think will happen? What do you think will happen now? If I run,
So for the first 2 times it will stop, and from the third time only it will be executed.
okay, I have commented this line of code. You know that, this will be commented line of code will be ignored.
Oh yes, I did not see that.
Yeah, so I commented this, so this will be ignored. So now continue is there, then what will happen?
So it'll just print I is equal to.
Okay, you think it will print I is equal to? It will print I.
Yes.
It will print I is equal to 1, I is equal to 2, like that. Continue, sir.
Okay, let's run it. It prints nothing because it is not able to reach the statement anywhere. What is happening is it is getting continue, it is going there. So any statement which is above this, let's say if I have something here, right? Start, something like this. So it will execute this and it is hitting continuous. It will not go here. Okay, so if I execute this using, it is getting start, but it is not reaching here because continue, what continue is doing? It is making the control jump from here to here. Right? Is this clear? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so now you tell me if I have if I is equal to 3 or I is greater than 4, then continue. In this case, what do you think will be printed? What will be the output of this?
Sir, it will print from 3, 4, 5, sir.
Okay, just go over this line by line. Just go over this line by line and tell me what will happen for I is equal to 1. So first value I will assume is 1, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Then what happens? I is equal to 1. Then what will happen on this statement?
Sir, it will not be equal to 3, or it will be not equal to greater than 4. Oh yeah, sir. It will only print I is equal to 3 and I is equal to 5.
Okay. So this is where, to understand the code, you will use Python tutor. To understand the code, you will use Python tutor. Visualize, right? So let's visualize the execution. Okay. So I value is 1. Now this is not true, and I is also not greater than 4. So it will not go inside this block. So continue will not be executed. Print will be executed. So we are getting 1. Now I is equal to 2, right? Again, either of the condition is not true. So it will again print this, right? Now I is equal to 3. See, I value is 3. Now this condition is true. I is equal to 3, right? Even though I is not greater than 4, but this is true. So it will actually come and print continue. It will actually hit continue. And if it hits in continue, you see how control goes, right? So it basically went, so I is over 3. And see, it jumped from here because this was true. This continued is directly jumped from here, right? Now I is becoming 4. In this case, I is not 4 is not equal to 3 and 4 is not greater than 4. So this is false. In this case, it will come to continue. This will come to print. Okay, and it will execute print statement. So 4 is executed. 4 is printed. Now in this case, it is 5, and this will be true. So this will not go inside the. This will go inside the continue, and it will actually go to the top of the loop, which is basically then there is no statement after for loop. So your program will actually end, right? Understood? So the output which you are getting is 1 is equal to I is equal to 1, I is equal to 2, and I is equal to 4. Understood?
Yeah, sir.
Okay, so yeah, make sure you're using Python tutor a lot. Okay, so this is about continue, and
Yes, sir.
continue will also work for while loop as well. Okay, continue works for even loops. So break and continue work for both the loops, and it works for only loops. You cannot use in if or function. You cannot use it other places. Break and continue, right? Clear?
Yes.
So if it is a while loop, then we'll say x is greater than 10, and we'll assign x is equal to 20, and we can say if x is greater than whatever, greater than 15, then continue. We can say something like this: then 15 and x is less than 18. Then we say continue. Okay, and then we can print x. Fine. So whenever it is hitting continue, it will actually go at the top of this thing, right? Top of this thing. So here you have to be a little bit careful, because you have to make sure that no, you're doing the increment before it hits continue. Why? Because we will have to say I'm doing the decrement by 1. If I'm doing this after this continue, then once this condition is true, it will always be true. Or we can do something like this also. We can say something, we can do a decrement here, so that value of x changes, and if it is inside this block, then also we can actually do the decrement, so that after doing the decrement, it does the continue. Okay, so in that way, at least it is decrementing the value. So if I execute this, then what you see is we're getting 20, 19, 18, and because 20, 19, 18, and then it is coming to 15. Why is 16 not coming in? Because 16 is bigger than 15. This is true, and 16 is also lesser than 18. So this condition is true. Okay, so there now, once this condition is true, we're decrementing this value, and then we're continuing. So we're continuing. So again, it goes at the top and checks the condition. Okay, again it will execute. So till 18, it will keep on executing, right? And keep on doing continue. And after that, when this becomes less than 15, then it will not go inside this, and it will start coming and printing 14 onwards. You see this? It has started printing 15, 14, 13, 12, and this kind of thing. It has started printing. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? You can use continue even in the context of while loop as well. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, continue, it does a function and then it just continues on with the program.
No,
Was
continue
like
is a statement. It's not a function. Continue is a statement. As soon as when the
yes.
yeah, so when the continue statement is executed, it is going to skip the rest of the execution of the code in the loop. So from when continue is executed, it will jump at the top of the loop. Okay. When the continue is executed, it jumps to the top of the loop. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So now we will actually look into something called else. Okay. We have used if and else, but this else can also be used in the context of for loop and while loop, right? So what happens is we can use else. I will take a simpler example. So we are doing this table of number. Take a simpler example, right? So I will say from this to this range, and we can say print, and we can print I, and for this timing. I think you know that once the loop is executed, it will continue with the rest of the program. Just comment this. So it will print this thing. And if I have else statement, then it will actually, once it has completed all the values, then it will print, it will execute the else block. When it has gone over all the values, it has completed the iteration. Okay, it has completed the iteration, and this has turned, actually this has turned false, which means in case of for loop, if there are no items, then it becomes false. Or you can say if the index has reached to the last item, beyond that there are no items, this statement will be false because it's saying I in that. So I in, and if it is the last item, it is actually not part of that. Okay, that's how you do the range, right? So range, you know that, right? So if I have this
Yes, sir.
range, and I will say something like 1 to 10, a step of 2. If I say 2 in, what do you think will be printed? So will this be true or false? Will it print true or false? Is 2 part of this range?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
Part of this range. So okay,
So,
what?
so it'll show us true.
So what range values you will get? What is this range will give you? What numbers?
1, 3, 5, 7, 9.
Yes, very good, Sohan. So then is 2 part of that?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Yeah, so it will print false, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if we say is 3 part of this, then we say true. Yeah,
It'll show true. Yes, sir.
5, 7, and 9, right? So those are the numbers. Great. So that's what we are getting here. So if you're saying I in range, this thing, you can also have something like 1, 10, 2. It can be something like this also. In this case also, once this I is not, has exceeded all the values, then it's going to print the, this is else block. And you can have any code you want. You can print value of I. You can maybe print square also. You can calculate square also. You can have any value there. Print Z. Okay, you can do all this. Let's execute this. And you see that it has gone over 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And then since it has completed all this, it execute this statement and it is doing the rest of the things as well. Got it? So we have this print and this print. That's how else works. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear to you as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now my question to you is, in what case you think for this else block will not be executed in case of for? In what case you think else block will not be executed? Because we are seeing for loop will complete the execution and else block will be executed. But in what case can you think that else block will not be executed?
So when it is true, like when it will be like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9.
Just a second, give me a sec. So in what context do you think it will not execute the else block? So I'll just get rid of these statements. You know, so this is all part of the else block. So whatever is there, if the else is executing, all this statement will be executed. So in what scenario you think this will not be printed? So as Sohan, you were saying that no, this is true, and when it becomes false, then this is printed. So this else block will not be executed if this never turns false. In what scenario you think this will not turn false? this will always be true? In what scenario can you think of that this will always be true, which means the complete iteration was not done, right? All the items were not taken out. So let's say I'm just making it simpler. So it will go from 0 to 10, 0 to 9. So in what condition do you think that it will not complete the whole iteration, full iteration? In what condition? And because of what reason it will not complete the full iteration? Guys, you're there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. In what condition can you think? What could be the reason that it is not going over all the iteration, all the items? Iteration means going over again and again. Iteration is the English word, right? Going over again and again, right? So this is also called iterable. Iterate over it. Iterate or iterate. You can iterate over it. Okay.
Yes.
So in what condition you think it will not complete the iteration? If we are breaking out of the loop, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
If we break, then let's say we say if I is equal to 5, then you break. And in that case, this has never turned false. This has never turned false. It simply broke. It will come out of the loop without doing anything here, right? It will continue the next set of the statements. Fine. So in this case, you see that it is not executing the else block. Got it? Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So same thing with while loop. Same thing with while loop. There, in case it is continue, that's fine. Else will be printed. Right? Else will be printed. This is else. Else will be printed. Right? In case of, because this will eventually turn false, isn't it? Once this statement becomes false, it will jump into else. So if I am executing it here, I've commented this code above. If I execute this here, now see, this is else is getting printed. In case of continue, it is getting printed. But if we simply break it, so from break, it does not even go at the top of the loop. It simply comes out. So that means it will not check, it will not go in the else block. So if I simply break instead of continue, in that case, you'll see that else block is not executed. You see this? Else block is not executed. Clear? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So we will actually look into this. There are assignments you can work on this. There is a factorial, then there's a prime number, right? So let me write this code, prime number code for you, but you should write yourself. I'm not going to share this code, but the video will be there with you. You can refer to this and then you should write your prime number code. This is a very useful code, okay? So first tell me what are the prime numbers?
So 2, 3, 5, which are only divisible by themselves and 1.
Excellent. So yes, prime numbers. So yes, you.
Yes.
So what are the prime numbers?
2, 3, 5, 7, 11.
Yes, very good. So
13.
numbers which are divisible only by itself and by 1.
1.
So yeah, so we can actually just, we have to, the way to check this is we just go over all the number and then we try to find whether it is divisible by that particular number or not. So let's say this is the number I want to check. To start with, let's say we want to check for 17. Okay. So what we will do is we have to go till 16 to find a divisibility, isn't it? For I in range, and we have to start from actually, one will actually divide everything. So we have to start from 2, and then we have to go till, so we can just say num. So num means it will go 1 before it, isn't it? Right? And then,
Yes.
yeah, then we can say that if num %i, this is how we check the divisibility, right? By first finding the remainder. If num %i, so which means starting from 2, 3, 4, what are the values are there? If we try to find the remainder of num, which is 17 remainder 2, what is the 17 remainder 2? What is 17 remainder 2?
6.5.
No, remainder. What remainder you will get if you divide 17 by 2?
1.
1. Very good. So, right. So if this remainder is 0, which means it is divisible. So in that case, we can say print not prime. Right? Correct? And if
Yes, sir.
yeah, so as soon as this is there, then we can simply say break. Correct? We have found it's not prime. As soon as one number divides it, we are done. We know that it's not prime. Right? And
Yes, sir.
yeah, if it is able to complete the whole execution, that means it is not breaking. In that case, we know that it is, we can simply print it's
Prime.
prime.
It is prime.
Yeah, it is prime. It is prime. Got it? Simple code, right?
Yes.
Simple code.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's-
This is prime. We try for other number 15, and then we say not prime. Then we have to find edge cases, right? Edge cases 2. Program is working fine because 2 is prime. Even edge case works fine for us, right? So we are able to get the right solution for this. But this code is not very optimal. Can you tell me why it is not optimal? Why it is not optimal? This code is not very optimal.
So because where the input is already given.
Come again, you?
So because we have to. So I'm not too sure, but because I've already put num is equal to 2, so we could just put it as an input. And
Yeah. So we can do input and all. We can find, people can do the input. We're just taking hard coded value. We can always say input,
enter a number.
enter a number. Right. So we can do something like this as well. Okay, and we can provide this input. We can check for 17. Yeah, it is prime. So we check for 15, not prime. We can check for 9999, not prime. So all this is possible, right? So, but it is not optimal. I'll show you how it is not optimal. If I go to 9876543, I'm going to 7 digits. Okay, it is quick to find it, but if I get a number, let's say I'm getting this thing 9999 1111. We are just going to whatever. So this is 8 digits, not prime. So it is able to do that. Let's find a big prime number. So prime number of 9 digits. So this is a number with 9 digits, which is a prime number. Okay, so Google is telling me, and we can check this whether Google is right or wrong, and Google is always right. So we'll do this. Now you see it is taking time. Even for 9 digits, taking so much of time, isn't it? It's taking a lot of time because code is not optimal. We're trying to divide it by every single number till one less than this number. Is this all required? Actually not. It's not required because you don't have to go all the way till that one less than that number. You have to just go to the square root of that number. You just go to the square root of that number. Why? Because if you think about it, let's say if I'm finding divisibility of 15, right? So I will start with divisibility. Okay, it is not divisible by 2, but it is divisible by 3. Fine, right? So in this case, it is not divisible by 4, and it is divisible by 5. But we don't have to check the divisibility by 5 because that check has already been done here. Because what is 15 equal to? 15 into 3, right? 15 into 3. This check is already done here. Correct. This check is done. So after the square root, the number will start decreasing. The other side will start decreasing. And before the square root, the first number was increasing. Correct. After the square root, the second number is decreasing. So which means the second number is already covered in the first number case. We have to go to only to the square root. See, it has spent so much time, still it has not found the value. We'll change the code now. We'll just go, so my divisor, max divisor will be till the square root. So we'll say, so divisor, this is till what we are going to say. We'll say num, and we can say star 0.5. This will give me the square root, and I will just find the round of this. And since we have to go 1 plus number because that's what this thing is there, right? Because my range, the top is exclusive, so we'll just simply say 1, right? So we'll say max divisor. So this is the max number it will assume to divide it. So see, it has not got it. So we'll just quit this. Now we have replaced this code by max divisor, and we will run this code again. Come on, my computer is getting slow also, because I think it's getting very hot. Come on. Okay. So, a lot of programs are running, that's why they're slow. Yeah, so I'll just pick max, not max divisor. Go to Google, find this number, and we'll paste this number. Now let's see how fast it can get. In Ziffy, it is able to find it's a prime number. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Now you understand. Yeah, now you know the value of optimizing your code. Yeah, you understand the value of optimizing your code. So from a division of this thing, now you know what is the square root of this number. The square root of this number is 5, and we can just, it is this much, only 30,000, and we are looking at this number is in billion, slightly less than a billion, right? Just we divided by till 30,000 and we are done. Instead of executing for billions of time, it is just 30,000. It has reduced so much, right? So you have to go to the square root, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do a little bit, you can do a little bit more optimization. You can actually also have step sizes too, right? Because if the number is even, it would have we would have got it in first shot itself. Actually, you don't need to go there because it will anyway, if it is even number, it will break in the first shot itself. So you don't have to optimize it. You don't have to jump every 2 numbers, because if it is even, it will break in first instant also. So this code is properly optimized for that. We don't have to write more code, isn't it? So this is good.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Clear? Okay, good.
So can we also do import math into math dot square root
Yes,
of num?
we can do that. We can do that if you want to do math. So to get a find the square root, there are various ways. Actually, there's a built-in also. There's a power function also built in,
Yes.
right? Then there is math dot. If I import math, then math dot power is also there. Okay, so there's so many ways to find the power of
Yes.
the number, right? So if it is square root, then we can say instead of math, we can say math dot sqrt, and we will get rid of this, and we get the max divisor by this. It will work in the same fashion. And there is something missing because we want to round it off. Now this square root will give us the float because we are not rounded it off. Square root will always be a float, right? So we have to round it off, right? So we can actually round just this thing. One is already rounded. After rounding off, we are just adding one, and it is prime. Okay, right? So we can of course use math module as well. Got it?
Yes.
Right, good. So you can actually write this code yourself again, prime number, make sure you're doing it. And then there is something called factorial. Factorial of a number, like say, you can say factorial of 5 is equal to 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So from 1 to that particular number, product of all of them. Okay, that's how you get the factorial. So you have to write the code to find factorial of a number also. And then you have various assignments which you will be working in the lab. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. So before the lab, make sure you have gone through the notes. And if you get time, you have gone through the video also, because you'll get to learn a lot. And just going through is not like, no, you put the headphone and then you're doing something else, you're playing games, not like that. You have to really watch that and practice it. Or if you can go through the notes and then you can practice according to the notes if you don't have enough time to go over the video. Fine. So, right. So we will actually move on to the next topic. Right. So you guys are good for the next topic. We have again 20 minutes left. Right. So we will go to the next topic. So we have completed loops also. So we will look into numbers. Okay. Numbers, we have been doing it. Should be very simple. We'll just cover this in quick thing, right? So we've gone through this arithmetic operators. You're clear with all the arithmetic operators?
Yeah.
Okay, floor division, you know that, right? Floor division. What is floor division?
Can you please repeat it again?
What is floor division? Floor division.
So slash.
Yes. So let's say if I'm doing something like this, what are the value do you think we'll get? So the simple way to find is we can just divide it. We're saying this. If we are using floor division, what will we get?
One.
One. Very good. We are going to floor it, right? Floor means you remove everything. So then there is a floor function available in math module also. So tell me, what is the floor of 3.9?
3.
Very good. What is floor of 4? Floor of 4.
4 only, sir.
3 only. Very good. No, sorry, I mean 4 only, right? The same number because it's integer. Let's look at what is seal. Seal of 4.9.
5.
Excellent. What is seal of 4.1?
5.
Excellent. You? What is seal of 4?
Yes, sir.
What is seal of 4?
So 4.
Excellent. Yes. Okay, good. So you guys understand floor and seal. Now,
What is the symbol for a seal division?
no, we don't have any symbol for seal. Like we don't have arithmetic operator. You will have to use seal function. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now, compound operators, we have done compound operators, maybe not. Okay, we'll just quickly look at compound operators. Very simple to understand. So many times you have requirement in which you have to add certain number to a particular variable and assign it back to it. So I'm adding, let's say 10, and I'm assigning it back to X itself. So X is 20, X has become 20 now. But let's say I want to do this again. So since this variable X is repeating on both the sides, we can actually, what we can do is we can remove this and we bring this operator
Plus
before-
equal to 10.
Yeah, plus equal to 10.
Yes.
So this becomes our compound operator, and this kind of thing you can use for anything. You can use for any arithmetic operator. So you can use for star also. So which means X raised to the power of 10 and assign back to X. So we are big number, I think. Yeah, it's a big number. So you can use for any arithmetic operator. Got it? Whenever you have a variable repeating on both the sides, then you can use arithmetic operator. You can use compound operator. And this is very common because many times you have to increment this kind of value. This becomes a little bit new. So oh, I have to increment 1, I have to write so much. So this becomes very handy. But make sure the operator is coming before equal to sign. And even I have made mistake in which I have done something like this. Python is not cribbing, right? But my X value is not improving. See, if I keep on doing this, this has ended up assignment of 1 to X. It's always happening. Why this is not changing? And then say, oh, this operator should be before equal to sign, right? Then this will change. Got it? Got it? This operator, arithmetic operator, should be before the equal to sign. Got it? Clear?
Yes, sir. So I have doubt in list, sir. List.
We will actually cover less in big detail, but yeah, you can ask your doubt now.
Yes, sir. So actually, this was a lab homework. So I have completed that, sir. So when I was trying to do it on my first time, so I had this doubt, sir. Like for example, sir, there are 3 in a list, sir. There are 3 components, sir. Dairy milk, 5-star, and KitKat, sir. So if the user wants it, like if we want to if we want dairy milk, sir, if we type dairy milk, sir, then it should be automatically selected, sir, and in the billing time, sir, it should be executed, sir. Like to the grand total, it should be added, sir.
Good. So for that, you will actually have to, you will not have to use list. You can use dictionary, because dictionary provides you key value pair, right? So dairy milk, let's say dairy milk is for 20 rupees. Okay. So you have this key and then you have value. Then what is KitKat? KitKat, right? So KitKat is, let's say, for 5 rupees, right? So this is what you want to buy. Now you can have other food items also. Let's say you have Nestle. What is that other chocolate you said? 5-star.
Yes, sir.
5-star, right? So 5-star, let's say this is for 10 rupees, right? So now we can write code. This billing is something like that. You keep on asking. So if let's say user has bought just dairy milk, then so we will have purchase amount. To start with, purchase amount will be 0 because that's what it is, right? User has not purchased anything, so it is purchase amount is 0. So let's say user wanted to buy dairy milk. So then we will so this list name can be better. This list can be, okay, I'm not going to go to this. We can say prices, or we can say product pricing. Product pricing. This can be a little bit better name, and then I'll copy this, put it there. So then if we'll say, what do you want to buy, right? So there's a barcode scanner, right? So you can identify the item, which you'll be able to identify. Okay, he wants to buy dairy milk. So we are getting, let's say, for example, we are getting a product name. So we'll just say name, and then we'll take input from the user. what you want to buy, right? So user will say that I want to buy, let's say 5 stars. He's a fan of 5 stars. I used to be a fan of 5 stars when I was young.
Even I like 5-star.
You also like 5. So because of there is some very
Like,
nice.
it's like soft and it's it's too sweet. That's why.
It's really sweet, and there is some liquid chocolate in between. So that's
Yeah, sir.
so that feels really awesome chocolate for me. Let's say he wants to buy this 5 star. Then for this, we'll go to product pricing. And this is product pricing, and then we will find what is the pricing for this. So this is going to give me the pricing because I have stored it in the name. This is giving me 10. Then my amount is equal to amount whatever is the current amount. At the moment is 0, but still amount is equal to amount plus this thing. And we can actually use compound operators. In this case, we can remove amount from here. We can use plus in front of equal to sign. So my amount becomes 10 now. Okay. If the user is
What if he chooses 2 items, sir, like Kit Kat, 5-star, and Dairy Milk?
we can ask again. Okay, what do you want to buy? So let's say he wants to buy Kit Kat also. So he said Kit Kat, right? So then now the name is Kit Kat, right? And the same thing you can do again. You can just do amount is equal to product pricing, and then in the bracket you have to pass the name, and this time Kit Kat will be passed to this product pricing. And since product pricing is dictionary for this Kit Kat, we are going to get a value of this, which will be 5. So we will do something. If we do this, this will result in 5, and then 5 will be added to amount, and then my amount is 15, right? So you can do that. So you can actually run a loop also. Now, since you know the loop also, you can continue with the loop also. You can keep on adding, keep on asking what you want to buy. Got it? This is clear to you?
Yes, I had this doubt, sir, while I was doing it.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, so you have to use the right data structure. You cannot use everything for list. This is more of key value pair, right? Key value pair, because there are product and then there's a price. So you use dictionary for this kind of case. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So coming back to numbers, now let's say if I want to find square root of 25, how will I find square root of 25?
Yes, math.square 25.
Okay, let's say I want to use the square root. I want to use the power operator.
The power brackets 2.
So let's say I want to use star star. Then what we will do?
0.5.
0.5. So 0.5 is nothing but equal to 1 by 2, right?
Yes, sir.
So do you think this will give me the right answer?
I think no, sir.
No, why?
So because first it will do with 1, then it will make it square.
Excellent. So that's where the precedence come in. If we do this,
So we'll have to put it in brackets.
yes, we can put it in parentheses. Good. So I think you guys are aware of this. So if we do in parentheses, parentheses has the highest priority. So pem dash is what you can use. Okay, pem dash is what you can use, and this has the highest priority for this thing, right? Just give me a sec. Okay, so we will just do this. So precedence order, parenthesis has a highest precedence, and then the exponent, multiplication, division, all those things are there. Okay, good. So anytime you have confusion, go for parenthesis, right? Integers we have been working with, floating point, we know it's all to deal with decimal points. Okay, then we also have some kind of expression as well. Okay, sorry, some kind of this kind of value you can actually represent in this way as well. So E23, this means actually 10 to the
So the power of 23.
Yes, very good, very good. So you can do all that. Okay, so Right. So we can actually do now. The next number is complex number. Now, complex number you may not have read in mathematics, but complex numbers are square root of -1. Okay. What is square
This
root?
year we have the chapter.
You have the chapter. Okay, good, good. So what is the square root of 1?
1 only, sir.
1 only. So now square root of -1 is not defined. Square root of a negative number is not defined. So complex number is square root of -1. In Python, you can actually use complex numbers. So I can say 1j. This becomes j is representation for complex number in Python. In mathematics, generally we use I for imaginary number. Complex numbers are also called imaginary numbers. But in Python, we represent it with j. So this becomes my complex number. If I want to check what is the type, it will say, okay, its type is complex. Okay. And if I say 1j into 1j, then what it should give me?
1j square.
1j square. And 1j square will, so I said, right, imaginary number is square root of -1, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
1j square will give me what?
-1.
Excellent. It does give me -1. And just to indicate this is a complex number, it is saying plus 0j. Okay, plus 0j. 0j means 0 only. Okay. So, and since complex numbers are numbers, you can actually do any number operation with them. But yeah, you will have to deal with the real part and the complex part according to the rules of mathematics. So let's say if I have 5 plus 10j and y is equal to 3, then if I say x plus y, now this 3 will be added only to the real part. Okay, so 5 plus 3 is 8, and then you get 10j. If I multiply x into y, then you see both of them are getting multiplied individually, because imaginary part is different and real part is different. Okay, but you can do any arithmetic operation with complex number. This is more for understanding and learning that if a complex number exists in Python, someday if you need it, maybe you can use it, but generally it is not much used in regular programming. But definitely read it out. To convert any real number to complex number, you can use this kind of function as well. You can read all about this complex number. Okay, Boolean we have done with it, true and false, those are the two values. We have Boolean, and I think even we have covered none. None means no value, right? So none means no value, right? And none is also kind of a data type. So you say none, this is gives you none type. None means no value, which means it's not 0, it is not empty string, it means no value. I can say x is equal to none, right? At this point of time, x has no value at all, right? It has basically none means empty value. If I cannot really add x to 10, because you cannot do none type plus integer, you cannot do that, right? So that is what is none type. Got it? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we have some assignments on this. Let's actually look into the next topic, which is my non-boolean. Actually, we have been done with it, because Python string is an elaborate discussion we will do in the next class. Okay. So now, yeah, make sure that you have gone over all the notes. Still, Python numbers, booleans, all this is together. Numbers, boolean, and none. All that is together. For while loop, for loop, and your number data types. Okay, number, boolean, and none data types. So you have to go over all of them. Okay, then I think you can continue with this, and then you can meet in the lab class to practice more of assignments. Okay, students, any question?
No, sir. No doubts or no questions, sir.
Okay, okay, Sohan, good. So I'll see you in the next class. Then take care. Bye. Bye, you.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning and thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Sohan. I'll see you. Bye.